Hello, everybody. We will be getting started in just a couple of minutes. Thank you for logging on early. I will give it about one more minute. I didn't queue up any music. I totally spaced on that. Do you want to sing us a song, Derek?
Nobody wants that. I was trying to think of a Lyle Lovett song just because you were just talking about that. But
yeah, he is one of my go-tos for karaoke. There we go. And now I just want to listen to the tunes, but we should get going. We are at 10 o'clock. So thank you, everybody, for joining. Today we're here. We're going to share with you 5 operations hacks that food and beverage folks like yourself can use to improve your operations and drive profits. Our focus today, we're going to focus on AI solutions. Artificial intelligence has come a long way in the last year or two. And things you might not have thought were possible might very well be possible today. So we've been doing a lot with folks and have some really interesting things to share for you there. A lot of companies have been popping up with AI solutions in recent months, in the last year. What we're going to share with you today are solutions we've actually put out there that are being effective in helping food and beverage producers like yourselves leverage things like AI, computer vision, machine learning, edge computing to solve real problems they've got on the factory floor. So thank you again for joining us. Let me see here. No? Okay, so today we've got Derek Bliley with us. He's our VP of Product. My name's Todd Rose. I'm the Senior Director of Marketing here at ClearObject. And we've been doing vision AI and generative AI solutions for folks for the last several years, very successfully in a lot of companies like yours. So if anybody happens to be in Chicago for the big IMTS show, the International Manufacturing Technology Show, Derek is out there today, so feel free to flag him down if you see him later. But before we get started in here, I really wanted to let you know down at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen, you will see a question in the chat area. Feel free to enter any questions you have while we're going. We have some time at the end to answer those. And you can chat amongst yourselves in the chat area as well. So let's dive in. So the news and the pundits, they're all out there talking about inflation. That's not just for consumers. So the cost of labor, materials, everything is going up. I'm sure you guys know this. Food engineering did a survey that came out earlier this year. It was about 200 people they reported in there. And 80% of those respondents saw a rise in material cost. Over half of those say that cost increase was 10% or less, so not too bad, but still that adds up. The rest saw increases in cost of over 10%, and 9% saw costs increase by over 25%, which is pretty significant. And then 48% of the responders, almost half of you, say the production facilities, they're understaffed. This could be because of lack of qualified talent, unexpected turnover, folks really saying that it's been hard to staff back up post-COVID, if we can even say we're post-COVID at this point, because we're having more surges. And then when you layer on that, 71% of the respondents to this said they're seeing increases in labor cost. So this all adds up, and it's really impacted margins. So we're seeing dwindling margins everywhere. The good news is production trends are mostly positive here. So 56% are seeing an increase in throughput. A lot of that is driven by increases in demand, some gains in efficiencies as well, which is good. But 8% are reporting a decrease in throughput, the rest being relatively consistent. But those declining margins are still an issue. So businesses, they're looking for ways to cut costs without compromising quality. And in an ideal world, they could cut costs and actually increase quality. So what are folks trying to do? So again, this data pulls together responses from about 200 food and beverage leaders. It was a survey Food Engineering put out last year, and the results came out earlier, a few months back. And folks are looking at a variety of tactics to get things back on the right track. Not surprisingly, equipment upgrades, they're at the top of the list. But what does equipment upgrades even mean? It could mean a big variety of things. It might mean retooling an entire factory floor. That could run into the millions of dollars, maybe 10 millions more. For others, equipment upgrades might be smaller, like incremental changes that could still offer an ROI. Other folks who are responding to the survey, they're focusing on things like increased training, improved maintenance, new ways of sharing data, communications. One of the things that selfishly I loved about this research and looking at what folks are focusing on here to improve productivity is that vision AI, computer vision, automated optical inspection, whatever you might call it. Those are all things that we do, and those are all things that can help each and every one of these areas that food and beverage leaders are focusing on. And actually one of the things here too is that vision AI is often a pretty simple and elegant solution for some of these in ways that you might not quite understand if you're not following this industry. So let's dive in a little bit more here into equipment upgrades. So we work with companies, they have production equipment. It could be anywhere from a year old to 100 years old. Sometimes they're in the same factory. Sometimes they're right next door. And that equipment, it actually produces the same product. The big difference here is those newer models are providing more data about what's being done, when it's being done, how many things are being produced, etc. And that data is great. It's excellent, but that new equipment is very, very expensive. Not everybody has the capital to invest in that. That same data could actually be captured and analyzed with vision systems. So adding cameras, lighting, other sensors to your line, it can give you access to a wealth of data without the huge upfront investment. And it even offers you more flexibility. These systems can be implemented in a matter of weeks, not years, of installing full new lines with new equipment, and at a small fraction of that total cost. The next things here is training. So that data that I mentioned, that can be used to actually augment human work, such as helping QA personnel identify low quality product, helping managers understand who needs more training, seeing like who's missing things, maybe who's not at the right station, those types of things as well to help people perform better. Can even help you identify trouble spots in your facilities. Automated reporting, which can come out of this data, can use AI to analyze and offer real actionable insights into areas you can improve. If folks on the floor need more information, this is something we've been working with. You don't need to be a SQL expert to get information out of these AI systems. You can use natural language and ask questions of the things, and it'll give you answers to what's happening on the line in real language as well. So super helpful there. And Derek will show you some examples of these in a few minutes. Predictive maintenance. So nobody wants downtime, unscheduled downtime, especially that can really impact production. Have people standing around idle when every minute that equipment is down, it costs you money. So vision systems, they can help with your equipment health maintenance. So you can schedule downtime before it becomes an issue. You can see when things might be breaking down. You can use that AI data and combine it with the vision data to understand when you might need to get things so you can get ahead of that curve and save time and money. And then here is KPI tracking. So your vision systems, they can track everything for you in ways that humans just can't today. So whether you're trying to improve your KPIs, or maybe you call them OKRs or some other 3-letter acronym your company uses, you need to understand accurately where you are today in order to really effectively build on that. You've got to measure it first so that you can improve it. One of our customers, before we began working with them, they were only able to spot check a small sample of their products. And because the area where they built these products was actually pretty dangerous for humans to be, they only did it once every 8 hours, and they checked a small sample. So if there were quality issues and they actually caught them in that sample they tested, they would have to scrap whole batches and spend a lot of time trying to figure out what happened, where did it start, where did it end, what do we throw out? And if they didn't catch them and they shipped this out to distributors or retailers, they'd often get returns, which can be super costly. So with Vision, they were able to move to a real-time inspection and catch quality issues before they really became a problem. So they reduced their amount of scrap and waste, which actually even led to them reducing their carbon footprint because they were able to save so much energy and reduce waste so much, which is really good for their environmental goals. And then another customer of ours was able to tap into their existing security camera footage and analyze employee activity. They could see inefficiencies in what people were doing and when, how people were interacting with the products. And they were really able to use that to kind of focus efforts, increase training, and really improve their KPIs for production. Another thing here, oh, there we go with the slide. Communication. Communication is key. Vision and AI, they can help a facility communicate internally and even communicate around the globe with other facilities. So global enterprises, that production can vary from area to area. They might even have totally different equipment building similar things. The Vision AI, it helps communicate across those locations and understanding those variations to help find best practices, help figure out what's going well where you can make up for inefficiencies in other areas and really plan ahead. Then expanding and retrofitting current facilities. Here, what we've seen is folks may want to do equipment upgrades, but that's super capital intensive. Expanding, retrofitting current facility is much more affordable, and cost savings we found through efficiency gains other ways have freed up that capital so that folks can actually expand current facilities or even improve their current operations there. And then finally, improving IT and engineering communication. And this vision data, all the things we can capture here, that can feed directly into your PLCs, can feed into your ERPs and other software solutions that really help drive your business. The production data, it doesn't need to sit in an inaccessible silo here. We make it really easy to integrate that information with your existing systems by turning that video and image data into structured data that these systems can understand and make use of. So those are the key areas that food and beverage leaders like you are focusing on, according to this report. Hopefully that resonates with each of you and things you've been thinking about. So at this point, let me turn it over to Derek. He can walk you through some more details here on how businesses are using vision AI in very practical ways to address some of these problems. So real quick, let me introduce you a little more formally, Derek. Thank you for being here. I know you're busy. He's been working in computer vision and AI for many years now, before most of us even realized AI was a real thing and not just a plot device in sci-fi movies. He's a real thought leader in the industry here. He's led numerous implementations of custom vision AI solutions for global enterprises, a wide range of facilities from food and beverage to other types of manufacturers. He's going to walk you through our 5 operations hacks. We may even have a bonus hack or 2 in there for you. I just want to remind you before I toss it over to him to drop any questions into the questions there. We've got Janine and myself will be monitoring that, and we'll make sure we have some time to address it at the end. So with that, over to you, Derek.
All right. Thanks, Todd. Appreciate that introduction. So yeah, Todd gave a great background there explaining kind of what are the needs that we see within the, a lot of customers that I talk to, what is it that they're trying to do within their organization. So we really want to walk through, hey, what are some repeatable pieces of work that we've seen that I think, conversations that are pretty standard that I have with our customers, but seem to be insightful and share with you all today. So I'll start with just, making sure we're all aligned on some definitions of some things. So, what is vision AI? What do I mean when I say that? And what's interesting about vision AI is there's a couple steps within vision AI that I think everyone should really understand, which is really about what I will say is the artificial intelligence piece, which is its ability to really say, hey, let me take a look at this picture here and identify where meatballs are and where's the edges of each one of those individual meatballs. That is the artificial intelligence and the outputs that you can get from that. But to turn that into structured information, something that, really we as humans can understand and utilize, it's more about, okay, give me a total number of those shapes, which one of those are outside normality. All of those can be, what we would technically call post-processing steps, but all part of a vision AI system as a whole. So really it enables you to turn anything that you would look at just as you use your eyes to interpret information. How can you use a camera to really turn that information into valuable data? And then how do you use that information, whether it's automation of tasks? Todd talked about automated process control. I'll talk about the components of an edge-based vision system on the next slide. But when I talk about edge-based vision, really what that means is the inferencing or the actual intelligence being created from that hardware is occurring there within the factory floor, which allows really real-time decisions to be made, which can be tied directly into your systems. So we do have customers that are using an edge-based vision system that's providing feedback to a PLC, which can then take automated actions within that line. Benefit of the hybrid systems that we'll talk about in here is not only are they making those inferences, real-time decisions at that edge, we can also continue to capture the metadata that's being output from those into a more structured database, whether that be cloud or on-prem, which really allows you to really understand how is that system behaving over time to give you insights in the way that what are the variables in your operations? What does that look like? So really that, from both the real-time decision and that data collected over time, that just more data provides you enhanced decision-making, have a higher fidelity of data over that time period, which really allows you to say, hey, look, I have a new solution that's in my toolbox that I can think about when I go to build these solutions. Todd mentioned, hey, here's all the objectives of what you all are trying to achieve. If I just look at something like safety, hey, I'm trying to increase safety. I could buy new equipment that's safer, or I could upgrade existing equipment to make things safer. And one of those solutions now is vision, and I'll talk about that as one of the hacks of how, hey, you can use a vision system to increase safety or decrease the cost of buying equipment. But I just like to think of those questions and when I have conversations with the customers, what's your objective, what's your opportunities, and what are the solutions? Vision AI is the solution that can help solve and deliver those objectives to use as an organization. So on this next slide here, what I'll talk about is actually what are the components of what we call a clear vision system. So any vision system is going to, hey, you have a camera, you have a lens. Those are, hey, that's optically what's going to read that. A very important part of any good, reliable system, minimizing variables. So one of the biggest variables for any vision system is illumination or lighting. Hey, what sort of environment is this? Is your line at? You need to be thinking about what's the variables in that illumination. Is there people walking by, create shadows? How do we set this up in the right way? Those are the components of a vision system from a hardware perspective. We at ClearObject work with our customers very closely to help them spec out and design those systems based on our experience. And so we're always happy to work with the customers in that and helping setting that information up. And then the next component, so that's the hardware from optically being able to visualize and see what's going on and making sure that you're getting the highest quality image with the best lighting that you possibly can. Because all of that information is then fed to what we call our ClearVision Edge. That is the Edge software that's deployed on an Edge server. Again, this being, when we say edge, in your facility specifically, and that is doing the image processing. So that's taking that information in, it's analyzing it, it's inferring the information from that video, pulling out the extracted data that you might need for the meatball use case. Again, where are all the meatballs? That same software is also doing the post-processing, which allows it to say, again, hey, how many of these are outside my variation of what color, what shape, and size that I'm looking for. At the same time, that Edge software is also can do both active and passive data capture. So that allows for an active learning life cycle where you see that arrow pointing off to the left going to the ClearVision. That is cloud or on-prem based solution where you can continue to capture images or video that can be used to improve that model over time. At the same time, that data coming off that pipeline can also be the inferenced information. So say you're counting the number of meatballs 20 times a second, and you want to know what quantity of those 20 in the past second was defective. That's the type of output information that would go from the edge-based system to the cloud. And then you would have all of that data for every second over all of time to be able to evaluate, hey, what's the variation in my defect rate over the last day, month, year, all of that being made available. Then the final piece of that Edge software and its capabilities to communicate back to your hardware in line. That's where we talk about PLC integration, using the correct communication protocols to be able to communicate with those edge devices. On the video that was playing there, I don't know if you want to replay that again, I kind of talked to that. This is just an example of, hey, this is a live feed coming in. So this would just be, hey, once you have all the camera and hardware set up, pulling out of that system, here's what the view of that would look like. then what you'll see here in a second is you'll see when we start to provide the inferencing over the top of that video, what I mean by that. So the inferencing is providing you the insights of both, hey, how intense is the flame, how much water is being poured on this, what is the line speed, all being variables of measurement within this manufacturing process that I as an operator would want to have the information to. So multi-sensory, it's really a camera could be a multi-sensory system in the way that you can see multiple things occurring at once that can measure each of those variables all at the same time in real time. All right, so drum roll. Now we'll get into, hey, what are some of these hacks that we talked about now that we're all aligned on, what are the components of the vision system? So low cost ROI, high ROI equipment, upgrades with vision. So run into this a few times, but put basically a story here, right? Customer had 100-plus-year-old machine, right? They've been making that same component, same parts out of that machine. Machine runs great. They know how to maintain it. However, it was built 100 years ago. Doesn't have all the safety measures that a standard machine would have. There was no issue really with the quality or the production coming out of that machine. It was simply, hey, we want to improve safety for our operators. It was a big piece of machinery. Definitely could cause a lot of damage, if not death. So, luckily for them, they hadn't had any issues, but they were looking at it as, hey, what can we do here to improve this? They were looking at $5 million plus for a new piece of equipment for this organization. In talking with them, really it was about, hey, well, what would this new equipment, what sort of upgrades would you be looking to do? What's really the issues? So what they really wanted to know is, hey, if this equipment is running and somebody gets, either themselves or a component of their body gets too close, ultimately, if we just know we could shut down that machine reliably, that is something that we'd look for. So working with them, really say, okay, again, a vision system, what we could do is track when the equipment's running, looking at different variables from a vision. Hey, if I can optically see things spinning, I can see things rotating, good indication that equipment is up and running. And then, fairly standard models now for being able to evaluate humans, tracking both hands, feet, again, full body components, and by applying a region of interest in that video. So basically as if you just drew a bounding box and then said, hey, vision system is something or someone that, shouldn't be within this region of interest is there while the machine is operating, then send a signal directed to that PLC, which basically tells it to shut down. So working with the customer there to really be able to just quickly and effectively turn that down. So, if you're purchasing new equipment, one thing I just say, kind of the hack here, hey, why, right? Is it improved outputs? Is it a safety? Is it reliability? Or, is this something that could I just update the existing equipment and kind of get the same outputs? Would I be able to use a vision system, measure the same data that maybe, is the reason I'm going to this new piece of equipment? The bonus hack of number one kind of leads into the other hacks is that, again, by having a system here that's really there for safety, well, now I can also start to use that to measure uptime, downtime, and operational variables such as speed, count of products produced, which leads nicely into hack number 3, but I'll go to hack number 2. Hack number 3, I will touch base back of why hack number 1 and 2 are closely related. So second hack here, one of the things Todd touched base on earlier, improving monitoring of KPIs. One of your KPIs is surely, hey, how is my system performing today? Are we performing within the specs that have been defined for what we are supplying to customers? And what defect rates, right? So how can a vision system work with this? A lot of the customers that we talk to, kind of a couple of ways that they're doing this. How are you doing the action today for your quality control, whether it's, a couple line operators sitting there all the time, swapping out, taking turns, or is it, hey, taking some samples at a specific rate. We pull those samples. If those samples are good, we keep going. If they're bad, hey, we might pull a few more samples. If those are all bad as well, then, oh no, maybe we have to rework or scrap all of that, right? So what we're saying with the vision system is, what if there's a better way, which is actually quantifying and objectively measuring those defects in real time. And again, what action you take with those can be dependent. It doesn't always have to be tied directly for automation, for rejection, but really you could just measure, how am I performing over time? The video that Todd has playing there, really what that system is doing in this case, shape, the size of the specific products here was of the most interest to the customer. So again, that was more of the process. Hey, every few hours we'll take the product, we'll pour it out, we'll have our lab guy count, is everything within specs, the right distribution of product size. If not, then like I said, hey, maybe we have to rework or repackage all of those, or go back and see what the issue is. This system now is using in real time, measuring and giving you a distribution of the sizes of that product, which can be used for real-time decision making. So if it goes beyond a specific control limit, that can be immediately shut down. But again, at the same time, all of that data is being collected, sent to a cloud environment where you can be analyzed and look for trends. So with that, and combining it with other data that's already been available throughout the line, specifically from other systems, you can start to create what we call soft sensors, or basically models on top of models, which are now you can look and start to understand the variations previous to, where this product is coming out, where it's being cut. What are those variations? What can I control to get a tighter scope? Make sure that I don't fall outside of spec. I can constantly do that. And then you have this vision system to really validate that. It really removes gaps in data, and it can provide you the right KPIs to manage as an organization. And again, that way you understand defects, quantity of production. You can understand the variations in your production in real time versus samples. So hack number 3. So I talked about hack number 1. Hey, you put a system in place that's for safety. You could definitely see, hey, in this video here, you've got a winding machine that's creating a product. Obviously, there could be potential safety issues with this one, but also at the same time, this was more about, hey, understanding equipment uptime, downtime. How can we measure efficiency of this product? So again, just kind of talking about, hey, from a vision system, while these individual hacks, you can get various multi types of information that can be of value, really drive, increase revenue, decrease costs, increase safety, all from one system. But so specifically, hey, reducing equipment downtime. I came from aerospace previously before joining ClearObject, worked basically 100% for 10 years on how to reduce equipment downtime. What does that look like? So, I always tell people, how are you doing that today? You reactive, you fix it when it breaks. Maybe you're preventative, where you're doing planned maintenance intervals. Hey, every 3,000 miles, I change my oil. Really, can you start, but what everyone really wants to get, what data can provide you, is more of that diagnostic, prognostic, and ideally prescriptive action. So diagnostic is, I can inform you when something occurred. So at least, hey, I don't have an issue that has happened that's causing defects on my line continue. At least I can identify it immediately. Vision systems are great for being able to just say, hey, I've now started to see this defect across multiple components. Hey, that's a good indicator that something has changed, that you might want to stop and take evaluation of that. Prognostic is where you start to be able to predict, hey, I'm starting to see these variations in measurements that in the past have led to this sort of issue. And then prescriptive is, again, back to, not only can I tell you what these actions are or what the issue is, but here's the actual prescription of what you should do to resolve that issue. And this goes back to kind of what Todd was talking about as well, which is just, you know, everyone's looking for, how do I get the right resources? How do I inform my resources? I got the older people retiring who have all this knowledge. How do I help get them this information? This gets into that prescriptive piece and being able to give operators, hey, here's the most likely options of what you should do to resolve the issue. And that can be a combination of using both vision outputs as well as then manuals. And that's where generative AI and the ability to have a conversation with both the structured data and the unstructured data can really help accelerate the growth of the individuals on your team. And then, you know, Todd, just that video on the top right where I was measuring all those, I did just want to show an example then of the bottom right is that overlay of, you know, kind of AI inferencing, looking at uptime, downtime. And then again, this is kind of the sorts of, you know, BI type reports that can be created from that got overlaid there, which shows just kind of, hey, what are those measures over time for this specific component? And again, just allowing you to continue to ask those types of questions. So we'll move on to hack number 4. This one, you know, specifically food and beverage, see a lot of this. Which is about, hey, how can I better understand, you know, the variations or the issues and keep issues from occurring in my labeling and packaging. So our system's set up to be able to, hey, is there or is there not a label that for some reason just stopped printing? You know, something got folded over or whichever created it so it's not visible. Is it correctly placed? So in that placement of that label, you know, hey, is it, you know, so far off from an edge? Is there, in that kind of white example, the white box with the blue background, right? Is there a specific area I expect it to be? Is it within that region of interest? And is it, you know, too close to the edge? All things that, again, the vision systems can do both the inferencing and the post-processing in real time to say, okay, where is that label? What's the quality of that label? What's the location of that label? What's the context of that label? And be able to compare that not just to, you know, it can compare it to previous images as well. So you can start to understand, hey, I'm seeing this trend and variation, which could be a great indicator of any issues as well. So not only does it have the context of the current image, it can have the context of the past images, allowing you to use that information to really make more informed decisions. And then finally on that packaging label, hey, I can also infer what is the packaging type. Based on that packaging type, right, is maybe it's the language of that packaging type. Then I should make sure that the text of the actual code date matches that so that I can verify that. All of that can be done by the system by being able to layer multi-models together. So one model might be classifying the package type. The next model is then looking at the label itself and validating that the two of those match based on the context. And the example on the top right video there was just showing, hey, looking for examples of the missing components. Some of those on the right, looking at kind of the variations of what we've seen in different packaging, which I'll talk in a little bit about how do you make sure you get the right data that's needed for analysis. So 5th and final hack, here we go. So, you know, one of the things is just when you think about these systems, I know, you know, a lot of this is talking about edge-based processing and automatic defect detection, measuring, helping, keeping equipment downtime. All of that is great. But again, the benefit of this system and being able to collect that data, we do see that it allows you to provide the right information to the right individuals across the organization. So, you know, whether that's executive level, regional, site, or staff level. So staff level being a major component of, hey, how do I help them, you know, do the day-to-day operations? Site level, how might they better plan for their day? But again, having information on how the systems are performing, what's the variations in those systems, what's caused the variations of those systems is going to allow those site level managers to make decisions. And it just continues up from there. So we see a lot of this where we typically we start engagements talking to, you know, someone who's an operations manager brings us in, but then very quickly they'll be like, whoa, with all this data, I could really make more informed decisions. My bosses can make more informed decisions. People at my lower level really love this. So, you know, again, just ask the question of, hey, with this data, what decisions could I make? and what is the value of that data, and how might we utilize that in the future to make more informed decisions as we make, buying new products, setting up new sites. What information can I take from this data and really continuing to grow? So, a couple bonus hacks, like Todd said. So, want to provide you some bonuses. So, one key one that cannot be overlooked is really just having the right partner working with you to really understand what is the right equipment that's needed for the job. And so there's a few different things, right? Number one, I already talked about a little bit earlier, lighting. But I wanted to give a demonstration. Right side, there's 3 different images, all the same piece. And you can see, the reflectiveness on the top one there. Let's just take it with with a standard light. That's going to create issues if any of that text is where those reflections are. That's going to be much harder to read. Then you have something without any light where it's kind of dark. You get the shadows and everything else. The bottom, using a specific sort of, this would be, us saying, hey, this is the type of lighting that we would recommend for this action. You see how clear you can read that text. Using a dome light that reduces the reflection, but provides you very clear context for that system to be able to read. So think of lighting just as important as if you need glasses as a human to be able to really pull the context from that and not get any reflections or glare that might cause issue. Another thing to think about when you're making hardware decisions is, what is the environment that this vision system is going to be in? What are the temperatures specifically that environment is going to be in? Because all of this equipment, does have operating limits. So understanding what are those operating limits, what kind of designs can I put around that? We do have, vision systems that are deployed with active, water or air-cooled housings in those specific examples, but it's just something you need to be thinking about. And then related to, a lot of times, to the temperatures, what's the IP rating, right? A specific, we know how important this is in food and beverage, making sure that you have the right lens type, no glass, all the material that could be detected, from a metal detector, all of those key components, wash down ratings, all of that is very important. Just think about when you're designing and building your vision system. And because one hack's not enough, we decided to do one more bonus hack. One thing that we do see, right, is all the time I spent talking about cameras and different things, is that actually using existing equipment is a great place to get started. So if you're new to kind of vision and what it's capable of, you don't even have to be new to it. You can also just use it for use cases where it makes sense. But leveraging existing equipment, and what I mean by that is, do you have security equipment already within, or cameras within your operations today? From those cameras, if best thing I tell someone is, if you were to look at those and look at those feeds coming in through those cameras, or there's decisions that you would make, or is there data that you would like to collect if you could look at that 24/7? Safety is a key piece there. PPE, we see that a lot with those types. But also just, hey, where are people on the line? What equipment are they, working with the most? How often are they working with it? How often is that piece of equipment being utilized? These can all be things that can be inferred from a security feed that potentially you don't need the granularity to measure down to the detail that might be needed. Operational hacks recap. Low cost, high ROI equipment upgrade with vision. So again, just think, what does that equipment do today? What could I do to make it work better? And could I use a vision system that would allow me to keep using the current equipment without updating to a new, more expensive capital investment? Improve product quality and appearance. Again, that's, hey, how do I use a vision system to measure it in real time? What is the quality of my product as it's being produced, whether it's size, shape, color, any of those variables that you might really want to measure, looking for specific defects within those, all of that is very important. Equipment downtime, again, understanding when your equipment being used, how long is it's being used, those are the most important components that will allow you to have a more accurate and predictive measure of when things could potentially fail and how you might provide the right information to those operators. Label and package accuracy. You all know how important that label is and how important that is, right? Having a system there that can validate, verify all of that information, making sure that, again, the position, the quality, the text is all of what is needed to be there can be very important. And then all this information that's being collected, how do we utilize it across the organization to make more informed decisions? And how do we provide that data to the right individuals? Things that have become more prevalent, bigger problems 10, 15 years ago, everybody building data lakes, but now that's well understood. It's easy to now serve that information across that organization and should provide a lot of information and insight of how the organization can make decisions. Bonus hack, make sure you have the right equipment. If you don't, that's going to cause issues. And again, one thing I think is just make sure that you're working with a partner who's understood that, worked in those environments, understands those conditions. And then finally, hey, or can I just use my existing equipment and get started today? And so if you're new to Vision, I'd highly recommend, hey, take a look at what you already have in place. You'd be amazed how quickly we can get started and what sort of value we can create for organizations.
Great. I think, Derek, I want to skip over the next few slides because we are running out of time, and we do have a few questions that I wanted to hop into. First being, thanks for the folks who entered these in here, and a couple came in from the chat as well. So what are some typical timelines and benefits of getting started on this and integrating AI solutions like what you call ClearVision?
Yeah, that's a great question. Good thing is it's measured in weeks, not months, right? So typically, engagement with us starts with what we call as a proof of value. So really doing a discovery workshop with you all, understanding what is the problem, what is the decisions that you're going to make as an organization, how is this data going to be served to make those decisions, putting together the right architecture solution for that. So delivering to you at the end of a couple week engagement, here's what an end-to-end solution architecture would look like. And then also working with you, demonstrating not only how a model is developed, but then also demonstrating that model and providing you a real model output at the end that allows you to understand the insights and how that model performs in your environment and seeing exactly what value it can provide. And as part of that too, we'll work with you to really say, hey, what are the success metrics of a model? How might we measure that? How do we use that to evaluate performance as we continue to move forward and work with you? So within a few weeks, you can really understand, hey, you can walk around, show everyone with your organization, here's what a model is capable of doing. Look, here it is working on our data. You can see it here.
So actually, I'm going to throw out a question based on what you just said here. Let's say that, I'm in charge of operations for the factory. I see some benefits here. Like, how do I get other executives on board? Like you talked about that proof of value. What would I be able to deliver to them to say, hey, yeah, this makes sense and it's super affordable?
Yeah, great question. So from that proof of value, again, you'd have a working model on your data. So you'd be able to say, look, this isn't some magic. Look, here's our line. Here's the outputs that we can get from that. But on top of that, we would also use that data in conversations with you to really understand what is the ROI or what's the return on investment, right? So if it's a model to identify defects and we can now say, hey, look, here's a model. It ran over a 1 week period. Here's the number of defects that we identified based on the count, the frequency of those defects, and working with you all to understand the impact of that defect, what might it cause. You can really quickly understand, hey, what's the value of this system if we can keep these issues from occurring? getting out to the customers. And that helps, that helps really build the use case. We really work with our customers as partners to say, hey, we want you to be successful in bringing us in and being able to go to those above to say, hey, look what I did with ClearObject. Look how we were able to save the company money.
Great. Had another question in here. Hey, we work in frozen and cold environments. How do you keep camera lenses from fogging up or condensation building up?
Yeah, great question. So there are actual lenses with that basically rotate. So you can send a signal. So the way our vision system works, it can actually send a signal whenever, whether you can set that on an interval. So say every 30 minutes, I'm going to rotate the lens to keep that issue from happening. So that could be set that way. Our camera, but that can be a hefty investment sometimes. Those can run almost $10,000 just for the lens cleaners themselves. At the same time, one of the outputs of our system that we do with some operators where it's a pretty easy location where they can, where people are constantly at, the output of what we call the model is basically, hey, what's the quality of the picture? And if it's beginning to get too low, we can send them an alert to make sure that they can go just manually wipe it off. Simple solution, but it works a lot of times to, keep the costs down and keep creating value for that company.
My wife always telling me to clean off my phone camera lens.
Yeah, exactly. Same exact thing.
Yeah. And the other thing, a question came in from the chat here is you talked about putting things at the edge. Is there special equipment you need for processing data at the edge?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, when we talk, there is special equipment. In this case, it's basically a server. Think of it just like any other computer that you would need. What realistic, while also being an edge-based server, it does require the use of a GPU. And really that's that graphics processing unit. And the benefit of that, the GPU versus CPUs, the benefit of its ability to understand, the visual aspects and run that more efficiently. So we're able to run these, 20, 30 frames a second, our inferences to provide that instantaneous feedback that's needed a lot of times with the automated process control.
Great.
Now, that being said, there are also instances where the real time is not needed. A lot of times, sometimes with those security feeds, that might be something where you're measuring, not something where you can take immediate action. So you don't need that real-time processing, when we could take advantage of those streams in running those analytics in the cloud. So it really depends on, hey, where does that vision system need to run, edge, cloud? Again, that's going to go back to the use case. What's the value? How are you driving action? And we can help guide you through that conversation, talk to our customers to really guide them of where that should be running, and we help them set it up either cloud or edge.
Perfect. That looks like it for questions. If you have anything else, feel free to drop something in there. Let me see if anything else came in. While we've got you, folks who are on this call, you might also be interested in next month's webinar. We're doing a case study. We'll be joined by a customer of ours, and they will talk about how Vision AI is helping them trick or treat their way into everyone's hearts. So how they've been using Vision to do everything from quality control to making sure they're dropping the right number of pieces of candy into bulk packages. They're using it in a lot of really interesting ways, and it's always good to hear directly from some of the customers on how they're leveraging this technology. So Janine actually just popped in the registration link there. If you wanted to sign up for that one now, registration is live. We'll be doing it on October 16th. Should be a good event, and we hope to see you there. And for that, I wanted to thank you, Derek, for taking the time. I know you're crazy busy and you're out at the conference, so really appreciate you sharing this with everybody who joined us today. And if you do have any other questions, folks, you can always reach out to us at experts@clearobject.com with any questions, things. We will send out this recording to you if you'd like to check on anything or listen to parts of it again. You'll also be able to find it on our website in a day or two. So thank you all, and hope you enjoy the rest of your day and enjoy the rest of your week. Thanks all.